Hey, if you haven't read Dan Jones's biography of Henry V that came out last year, you really owe it to yourself to pick it up. It is an absolute page turner. Now, let me start off with his writing style, and I got to say, the thing that strikes me the most about it is how clear the thing is. You know, this story takes place in Wales, in England, in France. There's a lot of players, a lot of personalities, a lot of different things going on. And the way Dan Jones does this, I wrote it, I was able to keep everything straight. And you know, a lot of times with me, at least when I'm reading stuff about medieval history, I can get all confused with all the Richards and Edwards and whatnot that are running around. This book, I was able to keep them straight. Now, the other thing he does is he writes this thing in the present tense. So you kind of really pulled along with the story. It's fast-paced. It's like you're right there. You're right in the mud and the blood at Agincourt. You're all over there. You're right in the thing. What he does in the book, and it's very interesting, is he goes into some detail on Henry V's youth as growing up. And it turns out he was born right around the time his father, Henry IV, stole the English throne from Richard II. When he grew up, when he was about 14, his father sent him to Wales to smack down this guy, Owen Glendower, and a bunch of other troublemakers who were running around in Wales. And what Henry V did as a kid, 14 years old, he learns how to run an army, he learns how to conduct sieges, he learns the importance of politics, finance, logistics, all that kind of stuff. So not only did he make his bones as a stud in Wales as a teenager, but he also turned himself into a pretty smart guy. Now, when he became the king, he decided to go after the French, and that led up to the Battle of Agincourt. And of course, Agincourt, tremendous English victory. They beat the French. The odds were like 4 or 5 Frenchmen to 1 over the English. Really spectacular victory. The thing I found particularly interesting, I mean, Dan Jones does a good job on the battle itself, but I was also quite impressed with the description that he gives of what the preparations involved, how many different kinds of people were involved, how many ships. And in fact, you know, as you're reading this thing about what's happening in the 15th century in England and France, it really reminds you of the D-Day in 1944. Very similar. I mean, it's Middle Ages type stuff, but still very impressive. Very impressive. Now he ends up beating the French. Claiming a lot of France, getting the Queen. At the end of the day, you say to yourself, gee, was it really worth it? But, you know, and the people who were paying the taxes to support all this were having the same kind of thoughts. Anyway, in his lifetime, which ended pretty soon, I mean, he was 35 when he died. In his lifetime, a lot of people towards the end were beginning to wonder the exact same thing. Was it worth all the taxes they were paying and the lives they were losing? Dan Jones, he goes beyond simply the military side of Henry V. He describes, he seems to have been a really pious guy. He was artistic. He composed music. He was, I'd say, ruthless. He was very, very prepared to execute anybody who was plotting against them, to execute heretics, people like that. You wouldn't fool around with this guy. Absolutely wouldn't fool around with him. Anyway, I thought a great book, super well written, very entertaining, very informative, certainly to me. And, I absolutely recommend it. Dan Jones, Henry V. See you next week.